welcome back to Overdunk, everybody, your favorite competitive Pokemon UNITE podcast. My name is Zoinks, joined as always, well, in no particular order this time, Bridget and Dewsnag. So good to see the two of you again. And my apologies, podcast listeners. I hope you enjoy my voice normally. It doesn't always count, but unfortunately, Bridget and Dewsnag's a little under the weather this week, so I think we're just getting a brand new look at our two hosts. I really think that's all that's going to come down to. But Dewsnags, how are you? How was this last weekend? What did you think of the first broadcasted UCS tournament of the year?
Yeah, it was a blast to be in the studio, kicking the season off. Of course, that was a great time. I started getting sick on Thursday morning, and I think anybody that's listened to the broadcast could hear me fall off as the day on Saturday continued, which is an unfortunate series of events for me. Plus, I don't think it was one of my stronger casts, which is a bummer because there's a lot of cool moments. So, took a lot of notes, listened to the whole thing back already, took a bunch of notes, and, we press on to get better for the next one.
There you go. I like it. All right, we bounce back, hopefully in health very soon. I hope you're feeling better soon, Dewsnag. Don't want you under the weather for too long, obviously. But Bridget, how about you? How was your weekend? You were covering some of the games we didn't get to, so talk to me. What'd you think of the tournament?
We tried. It started way earlier than we expected.
Okay.
So
and full disclosure, way earlier than expected. It's way earlier than I said, and I am so sorry. I definitely was told a different time. So my apologies.
I think we asked other people too, so it wasn't totally your fault.
Okay.
But I literally went to pull the bracket and send it to our group chat, and I saw all the timers had started, and I was like, guys, it had started.
We gotta go.
Yeah, and of course some people didn't have spectating. We did our best, but it was still really fun. I watched as many of the games as I could, mostly just from the main broadcast. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
And then I've been sick since about Sunday. So actually my voice sounds a bit better today than it did yesterday.
We're on a rebound. That's good to hear.
Progress.
Awesome. Well, if this is somehow the first episode of Overdunk that you're tuning into, impossible at this point. We're almost at 100 episodes. Listen, if you're here, you're here. I don't know if we're getting a new crew at all, but if you're here, you're with us. But obviously, the Unite Championship Series has finally started. We made it through the offseason. I'd say we're getting better at these offseason things. We're putting up better, cooler tournaments. The community's stepping up. But and this year, we're finally starting with the Aeos Cup play-in tournament. Now, in years past, this has just been called the February Cup or the February monthly event or whatever it is. Format changed quite a bit. We talked a ton about what the format means and everything, what it's playing for, but just as a quick recap, the teams that played in each of these tournaments, the winner of each tournament gets the paid trip to go compete in London for the Aeos Cup in April, which is very, very, right around the corner. And they immediately get to go to group stage and don't have to participate in the Swiss bracket, which we definitely have to talk about that. I feel like we got a few more details about that event, but either way, the stakes were incredibly high right at the beginning of the season, which I think is very, very cool. It was a fun talking point on the broadcast. Obviously, it was really easy to hone in, this is what these teams are playing for, this is what they are trying to compete, why they're trying to be successful because of blank by blank. It was really awesome, and we had some cool teams step up, which I was pretty excited about. Obviously, we covered EU and NA Dewsnags, and so For Free, formerly known as Baltoys Unite, they had a forced name change. For Free won in Europe. We had, oh my gosh, Alter Ego win in North America. We had Legacy win in Brazil. We had Rework Respawns win in LATAM North. We had, oh my gosh, Fusion win in LATAM South. And then, what's Sulu's team's name? What's the OC winners?
Oh, GZ.
No. Greater Zenith, yes. Okay, Zenith. I said no because I was thinking of Ground Zero, because that's why they made their tag GZ. It was a play on it, but then Ground Zero came back, so it's weird now. And
honestly, I didn't know they came back.
Long story short, I really hope that every team at OC by the end of the year has GZ as their tag. I think that would be very funny. Can we please rename all teams in OC to GZ? I think that would be hilarious.
I'll send out the 6 messages to the captains.
Yep.
And let's see if we can get that done.
Oh man! Oh my gosh!
Brutal.
We're
brutal.
trying to. I've been trying to set up some team interviews for the Unite Mike's channel and everything. And
Cute.
definitely OC is a team. Like some teams really want to be interviewed. I absolutely need to get Doom Snacks on them just for like some good bants. I think that would be very
Drama.
fun. Exactly, drama farm. I think people would enjoy that. I think they really would. But yeah, anyway, it was a pretty fantastic event. Let's talk about Europe first. So the Nouns Esports started in the losers bracket to start the day. We had for free in the winner's side. But any big talking points out of Europe that anybody wants to mention? I can start. I obviously was extremely high on Nouns Esports headed into this weekend. They made it decently far in the bracket. However, they did fall short. They didn't make it into the top 3 or anything like that. But I will say, I hyped up ABCD a lot on our last episode, on our predictions episode. So I was very, very excited with how far of a run they made. They looked awesome on broadcast, making Absol look meta, which was so sick. So I'm very excited for the future of that team. But that being said, For Free is a sick team. Like, they look very, very good. They have proven, I think, everyone's doubts, if you had any, wrong about the role swaps or just like player styles and play styles and things like that. I feel like they're locked in. So I'm really excited about this region. But how about you, Bridget? Any thoughts on EU? I know it was very early in the morning. I don't know if you were able to catch any of it, but yeah, thoughts on Europe after the first tournament.
Yeah, I did watch a little bit of Chris's broadcast, and then obviously you guys when you started covering it. Definitely, obviously, Nouns getting knocked out was pretty surprising. I mean, starting in losers is pretty difficult. You kind of have to play pretty perfectly, but like you said, your alphabet team, I mean, literally dominated that losers bracket, so that was really fun to watch. Yeah, actually cooked. You were right. You were right.
So it feels good. It's rare, but it does feel good.
And I know y'all didn't do very well in grands, but I was actually pretty. I mean, they looked clean in their run as well, kind of up until those last couple games, which was disappointing, but.
Bizarre.
I thought they were doing great. Yeah, I actually was like, oh my gosh, like, were Doomsack side right? Like, oh my god. But, yeah, For Free just seemed like on fire.
Yeah, they seem crazy. Doomsnacks, how about you?
Okay.
Oh, sorry. No, Bridget, finish your thought. I didn't mean to
Bridget.
cut you off like that.
I was gonna say, it's just so hard to stop a bracket reset momentum. Yeah. So once they got that, it was like, all right. For Free is kind of rolling. That's all.
To piggyback off that, I think is now going to be a question I ask myself or maybe pose on broadcast every month, because it's something I've thought for a while, and I asked it at the beginning of our broadcast on Saturday. I have no idea where the mental strength of this region comes from, because I just have never seen it. It's wild. Like, For Free had tons of momentum into losers and was able to just kind of cruise on that. Yala Bingo, I don't know you can say it any other way. It seemed like they boomed so incredibly hard. Nouns being in the losers bracket, getting, snuffed out. I don't know why the teams that should be doing well, like it doesn't even feel like it's a rarity anymore. It almost feels like an expected, the super team or the best team is just going to fall off, or the team that is in the best position to win just fumbles the bag. Like, I don't know why that's in my mind, whether it's true or not. I'm not saying it's backed by any evidence or anything, just my feelings here. I always feel like it's just, they just kind of boomed and didn't do what they practiced or didn't follow through or had awful communication and they lost. And now we're moving on to next month. And like, am I going to say Nouns Esports is probably still, in the favored for the region? Like, yeah, because it's really tough to deny individual skill. But at some point, I don't know when that's going to be in my body, but I'm going to have to start saying like, well, they haven't actually won anything, right? Or they haven't been able to overcome this hump. So like, are they truly the best, or are they just like, is the sum of their parts weaker than their individuals added together? type
Yeah.
of situation. So
Mm.
I was incredibly disappointed to watch Yalla Bingo get absolutely beat down in the finals. It was very difficult to cast. I'm sure it was difficult to watch. It didn't feel particularly fun. Um, I mean, we all know how that feeling because we've played those games in solo queue before, right? So, and that's
Literally.
kind of what it felt like we were watching, which is super sad because I think Marv, Internal, specifically, Sixties as well, we were having a really strong showing just against that team, a couple hours prior. And that just seemed to just absolutely evaporate. So, that's pretty much all I got to say about EU. For free looks sick. I'm excited that Chelvin punched their ticket to Aeos after the role swap coming back. Their Crustle looked terrific. So big shout out to that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a lot more about Cressel. I feel like a little bit later when we start breaking down some of the current metagame and everything, because we all knew it was on the rise, but this was I feel like a breakout tournament for Cressel, even despite that. Sorry, that guy just bet like I didn't want to have to keep answering the question, but anyway, I think nouns is an interesting talking point. I feel like their loss to Illusion, it's a tough one, because obviously those are two extremely good teams. Illusion is like really, really high caliber. However, Illusion like wanted to win that game. I feel like a lot more than Nouns did. If we're just talking about it like on player personality and things, right? Like I don't know if you got to see it, Bridget, but like Klaus after winning that game tweeted out the tweeted the Jujutsu Kaisen meme of like, nah, I'd win. Like
That's awesome.
it was so sick. Like, I don't know. I think that rivalry is going to be really, really fun to talk about and watch for the rest of the season. So, which is really funny because we have Klaus posting that and then Lunder like posting a response to all the Nouns haters saying like, hey, back off. Like, I like these people. They're my friends.
Aww.
Which is very funny that we have both sides of the coin. But either way, yeah, that seems really interesting between those two teams. But yeah,
I just don't know. Like, I have no idea what it's going to take for a team to enter a tournament pre-motivated. Like, you can't have your opponents be what gas you up. So like even like I think Illusion was more determined to win than Nouns were just off the rip, and then them getting matched up, I think that kind of escalated from there.
Yeah.
But I just like Cinco Guillermo was super motivated to play, and they're like rejuvenated to come back. Stuff like that. A through L played incredibly inspired, I think. And to some degree, Yalla Bingo as well, until those finals where, maybe there's a little bit more cracks in the dam but
right.
than we recognized in the previous set. And those just kind of started, leaking water. But I mean, like, if you are the super team, you can't just have your motivation be we're expected to win, which is kind of what felt like for LG at the start of last year. It's like we're just expected to win, and it took them so long to get the ball moving. Well, this was unfortunately maybe one of the biggest tournaments of the year, right? In terms of like getting CP, getting another crack at CP, keeping the train rolling, putting yourself on the right path so you don't have to do some Hail Mary plays at the end of the season, right? And if you can't get motivated for that, like where are you going to get it from? Like this might have been a situation where like you might have missed the train. There was a lot riding on this, and I'm not saying Nouns can't make up that gap. I'm just saying like what a horrible way to start a race by tying your own shoes together. Like what is happening out here? So I don't know. It's I'm excited to see how EU shakes out. I think from a storytelling perspective, Nouns losing here makes everything a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
Just in terms of storytelling and like the texture of the rest of the year. But like as an individual who has friends on Nouns that I speak to, it's like, come on, please, like figure it out, please. So
yeah, it is crazy to think about too, because like if they beat Illusion there, I mean, I don't know if ABC beats Nouns. Like, it's that kind of prediction game, I think. Like, it's just so hard to doubt Nouns in these prediction games. Like, I think on our predictions episode, did we have Nouns going all the way through losers to Grants?
Yes.
Like,
you had them winning.
I had them winning. Yes, thank you. Yeah. And on the broadcast, I think like 3 out of 4 of us also picked Nouns to win the whole thing, which was very funny because Junkie is coaching for free this year. just Zervis and Shelvin, they're his boys, so he's sticking with them. But I got a DM when he saw the like prediction game of us, like I had for free on the top 10 list.
Oh, okay.
Or no, sorry. I had for free winning the tournament, like at the start of the broadcast. Like we went live for my top 4 or whatever, I had them chosen. And so he was like, absolutely pog. Heck yeah, Zoix, when I had for free winning it all. And then he saw my power rankings board and I had the rank 10th. And he went, never mind. Immediately. It was the perfect double side. I had, there was no chance. However, I will say, Shelvin approved of the list. Shelvin said based list, so I think it's okay. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly, there's been some cool stuff in Europe. I think the only other storylines we didn't really hit, we're obviously Squishy Squad were able to take down Nouns in the open qualifiers. Yes, they went out 0-2 in top 8. However, I still think taking down a team with the name value of Nouns is enough to keep people's attention on that team. I think Illusion and Yala Bingo are like extremely similar in skill level to me, so I think they will be like really will round out the top 4 extremely well, and honestly Illusion probably into the top 3 or 2 at this point. And then ABC are like just I think gonna be the wild card this month, so I don't know, there's a lot of names to talk about in EU for the rest of the season, which is sweet. I'm pumped. We'll see a lot more Blaziken from Europe, which is interesting. We see a lot of Blaziken. I hate that Pokemon a lot. But let's any more thoughts on Europe before we transition to North America?
I hope all those top 6 teams stick together. I hope all the top 8 sticks together, those teams. There's good competitive level there.
Yeah.
And I really want EU to continue becoming kind of a buzzsaw, like to win, you actually have to feel like you're beating really solid players and solid teams. And I think EU is in a good spot. This has felt the most competitive the region has in the last 3 years to me personally. And that's a good thing. So that's what I hope. I hope Yala Bingo, as much as I rooted for them and how much I think they fell asleep at the wheel in the grand finals, like that's not an insurmountable deficit, right? They were in the finals of the Aeos Cup qualifiers. Like they took out a lot of teams. They took out the team that beat them in the grand finals before. So I just hope that they find the silver lining in this experience and are able to use that to motivate and push past and kind of patch up those cracks in the dam I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I'll say.
Yeah, you've always been a pretty big advocate, Doopsnacks, for like teams sticking together and staying the course and seeing improvement over time, which I think you've been proven right about a lot of times to the point where it's tough to deny that at any point in time, at least for it to be a successful team throughout the time. But okay, let's talk about North America. So Bridget, you were able to cast a few of these earlier games and get some of the stuff. Did you, I think that guy in chat was talking about it a little bit, but did you get to see Nemesis versus Fixed first round, or Luminosity versus YT?
We pretty much missed like round 1. Like by the time we got started, like the game 2s were already happening, and we're like, let's just do round 2, like whatever. We were like following along, but we didn't get to watch a lot of the round 1s, which was a bummer for sure.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think Chris might have watched a little of the Luminosity YT coverage, which we followed, and I know Muck was streaming.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That game as well. So we kind of focused on that one. So yeah, a bit of a bummer, but yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, obviously Luminosity on a demon level bracket run. I was very excited to see the bounce back from LG. Because obviously going into losers, even they're not technically supposed to be there, whatever. Like all this talk, yeah, that sucks in general. However, for the future of the season, I'm very excited that LG is capable of taking it to the top teams across the entire region. It's very, very cool. Obviously, last year they started by taking down they won the first tournament of the season. This year they get second place. So definitely Luminosity still sticking around as one of the best teams in the entire region. But getting taken down by Alter Ego in the grand finals, which was looking like a devastating grand finals to watch, just like EU, and then all of a sudden, Machisel just locks in and brings them a champ and wins 2 games back to back. That was so flippin' fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that.
All right, Deucex, please, then take it away. Talk to me about this grand finals.
Okay, so I guess so. Are we working retroactively, right? Because I think there's a lot of cool stuff to touch on just throughout this bracket in general. But anyways,
I feel like the most exciting thing was grand finals, so let's just kick it off with that.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it was on track record-wise to be a similar scenario between Yellow Bingo and For Free.
Mm-hmm.
The games were markedly different, and I want to make sure that that's
yes,
that's evident.
Yeah. Alter Ego didn't just roll over.
I mean, those games were
Yeah.
bangers, right? Like, and it was like Alter Ego was just missing a little spot right there.
Mm-hmm.
Backs against the wall, and in game 5 they banned Meowscarada, and I think we did a pretty good job at the draft board to identify. I don't know if it was Spraggles or me, but I think we pretty quickly identified like that you only do this if you're flipping the draft stylings onto LG, right? And that's exactly what they did. So they banned Meowscarada so they could go heavy Eevee and take away what LG has been using as their Meowscarada gutter pick on the backside for Overlord.
Mm-hmm.
And then they picked Machamp with their last 2 picks. It was sick, obviously. And then, like, the Machisler just came unglued, right? 3 Unite moves. Every single one found a target. And on the one where he, like, found a clean engage on, it was on JB. JB ejected over the wall where Machisler ejected and cross-chopped and ended up with a KO streak of 2 following the Machamp Unite, which was, to me, I was like, this kid is on. Like, there is, like, It was instant, like, eject here, and it was eject diagonally so he could hit the right angle up for the cross chop. I was like, oh, the Machisler is moving right now.
Uh-huh.
So that was sick. And then of course in game 3 when they went back to the Machamp, because in the middle of that game I was like, do you have any idea what it does for your mental and for the squad if they pick a Machamp game and like the Machisler pops off and they win that game? Like it's like that is a tide turning momentum swing. And then they won, and then they went back to Machamp, and I was like, it's over. Like it's so done now. And then and you have to give credit to JL and Joey. Joey was the most solid player in all 6 games we watched, or all 5 games we watched.
Yeah.
Just like in terms of like high level consistent play amongst the team. Of course, Machisel had the big pop off moments, but Joey was grooving. Like when the team looked rough in some of those first 2 games, Joey was playing out of his gourd to try and drag that team along with him. So big shout out to Joey there. But in that last engagement, I think Zoinks, you saw the follow me. I caught the Trevenant Unite on the backside. And what it did is the follow me, like Zoinks was talking about after, pulled 4 players from LG in. And then it was the big Trev Unite synchronized with the Machamp Unite back the other way. So it was like all of that damage, like absorb whatever, how much damage you take is increased, and then just getting murked in half. It was just the sickest series of plays, and it was so well sought out. And that game was freaking awesome. And it's going to be really tough to beat that set. Like that is a high set bar for a set for this year already.
So fun.
I've watched it back again. I kind of watched the broadcast back a couple times already because I like dissect my own casting, right? But like that is one that I watched to do the casting notes, watched again to make sure I didn't miss anything, and then just watched because it was a sick series. Like it was just so good. Yeah, so anyways, that was awesome. I've actually support laned with Machisel before, so I'm just saying I'm part of the training arc for Machisel.
I see. Okay, you were a building block.
And I will say this, after the tournament, obviously I congratulated JL, who I've told JL that I'm assuming JL stands for Jazzle Lazzle, for just another piece of you all in there.
Sure. Uh-huh.
I'm just trying to find this message. Where did I send it? Oh, I just asked, am I still number 1 on your NA support tier list? And he goes, as long as I'm not putting myself on there, of course you're number 1. So Machisel is either playing with the best support in JL or the second best if JL isn't on the list. Old Dupe Snacks.
With Dupe Snacks. Okay. I like that. Lock in. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the grand finals was so incredible. I mean, you broke down the big moments in fantastic fashion. Honestly, when the grand finals started and Luminosity just started taking over, I was extremely worried. I was like, okay, like Alter Ego was trying everything too. We had Crustle top path. So that was like we were trying to find an answer. I'm glad we finally discovered it in the Machamp, but I was pretty psyched. And also MVP, VIP in the chat. Actually, should VIP Ven, but hi Ven, good to see you again. But yeah, sick grands. There were some other great matches too. But Bridget, any thoughts on grand finals between Luminosity and Alter Ego?
Obviously a different POV, like watching it on my computer, but I feel like someone at that point, like I was like, it's kind of over. Like LGS just has to win one more game. Like I'm in a VC with my friends. Like it's on in the background, but I'm not really watching. And then all of a sudden I'm like looking at chat, and when they're doing draft, and everyone's like, pick Machamp, Machisel, LMAO, and then he does, and everyone just like freaks out. Everyone's like, let's go! Like they're doing it. And then like when he popped off, yeah, it was just like actually really hype and like a good like come together moment for everyone watching, and it was really cool to see, and just seeing like a comfort pick, like a sleeper pick, like just do that kind of work, and I don't know, it was really hype. So
it was broadcast peak for me. Because we were like sitting there after the reset, and the camera gets like individually focused on me, and I just looked into the soul of Machisel, hopefully, and everyone watching, I was like, it is time. Pick up the Machamp. It is your only answer. And then they win 2 games back to back, and I was so pumped.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that was really sick, and I think you credited it really well. Deuce, thanks. Throughout the entire tournament, I honestly think Alter Ego MVP had to be Joey. Joey just was such a sick tournament. In a world where Crustle and why am I blanking on the Umbreon are like dominating every game, Joey is making Tree look better than both of those. It's so exciting to watch this player play. Obviously a player that I've only seen in a lot of community and grassroots tournaments. I didn't really see them play UCS at all, and just see them to be on the map in such a big way. In fact, after the tournament, they put a tweet out saying I'm the best tank NA, remake the tier lists. So
hey, listen, it's hard to argue after that tournament, brother.
The tweet energy was so good after this tournament. I was loving it. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some other aspects of the tournament. Obviously, we do got to talk about our predictions. I think I did predict Alter Ego going all the way. Don't remember exactly that, but we all had Alter Ego in grand finals, which is pretty sick. But GT was the team I think we also had in the grand finals against them, right? They were the team we were predicting quite a bit. Unfortunately, not able to put together the GT Luminosity rivalry kryptonite again. And take the L to Luminosity. Is this the end? Is this the end of the GT has the LG answer, or is it just going to be a good rivalry for us to watch for a long time?
I think it's a code crack situation. To be honest, I think they've broken the code, or GT was just like mad weak to the very clear, repetitive white bread strategy that Luminosity was doing. I mean, it was Fisher Price compared to what we've seen out of LG before, and I understand why. Like, it's easy to see why. There was role swaps in a week that they had to make adjustments for. They had to play into specifically Jungle Book's strengths on Pokemon that he wanted, and that's why we were seeing like first pick Glaceons and stuff, right? Because they clearly built their strategy around that. So I don't know if GT specifically was just weak into that, milk toast looking type strategy, or if LG was just like, yeah, we just. Sorry. No, I don't disagree. I don't disagree how good it is, but like, Overlord and top, the reason they're having Overlord pick last is because unlike every other team, Overlord probably just told the squad, I will gap anyone with anything. So draft a team to help book, and then I will take whatever's left. And you can't deny results. Like they ripped through a bunch of squads, right?
Yeah.
You know, almost every game. It was ban Buzz, take Glace, you know, and you know, Overlord will gap up top and we'll be fine, right? You know, almost the whole time. Slash was on Blissey. He was one of the best Blissies on the planet. You could argue that they are the best. So all that to round out the whole conversation. I don't know if they've cracked the code on GT. I believe they may have, or if their super hyper milquetoast strategy was just like the perfect counter to whatever GT was trying to cook up, right?
Right.
I have a tendency to believe it's the former.
Okay. I'm kind of curious, actually, in LG's like constant ban of Buzzwole. Like, I know Overlord has an incredible Buzzwole. Like, I've seen it before in tournaments, and you could just make that assumption and be pretty safe, honestly, no matter what. I'm pretty surprised that we are seeing so many frequent bans of that Pokemon. It was pretty interesting, but,
Can I tackle that real quick, just with my thoughts on it?
Yeah, please do.
So, I think it's a twofold, right? One is to get the Glaceon or get the priority pick.
That makes sense.
For book. But the other one is the drop off between top path Pokemon in the game, between Buzzwole and everything else, is pretty large. So if you think the only way that Overlord can get gapped is by giving Buzzwole to the other team, and you have to take your first pick is Glaceon every time, or something along those lines every time, well, then what you've done is you've drug everybody down to Overlord's level, where it comes down to more of a skill-based matchup on less powerful Pokemon. And to LG's credit, to what I would believe too, he can probably gap everybody when you bring everybody to a air quotes even playing field.
Yeah. Cloudbuster agreeing with you in chat and stuff too. Like, yeah, I think it's a great breakdown, Deuce Snacks. He's so good at this video game. It's unbelievable.
Overlord's pretty darn good.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Bridget, any thoughts on Luminosity Gaming this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, they just made it look like, I mean, they definitely went to like a couple game threes, but for the most part, I was watching OC the night before. I feel like for an OC, every game went to a game three. So this, I was like, oh, this is like not every single game, just about half. They just made it look easy, as I feel like Luminosity can do when they're on a good tear. And obviously I think the role swaps had a big impact. I just think you could tell they were playing like more comfortably than it looked like during qualifiers. So I think that showed a lot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It was interesting to see Slash's prioritization, whether it's over to Clefable or to Blissey, but it kind of just rely on those two. We almost never see Slash Hoopa. That's like a Pokemon we don't really see from Luminosity, which would be interesting to see teams kind of try to chase that down in draft, but maybe the damage dealers and the EVs are just too good right now. You can't really focus a heavy support top front-ended draft. EVs are nuts. They are all so good. One last thing, I know I'm going to skip topics for just 1 second, but we were talking about Alter Ego for a little while before the MVP there. I actually had Kratos and JL in my chat last night, and I was talking to them both, and JL was pretty firm on, like, I think the MVP of the tournament is either Joey or Kratos. And Kratos is just kind of a silent killer, just locking in Espeon, just doing their job every game. You know what I mean? You show up, you do your thing, you chain CC with your tank, you hit a ton of damage on stored power. It looked pretty good. So I'm pretty excited that Kratos is going to be qualifying is going to Worlds. Like, the guy has a long history of success and just like being acknowledged by top players, but I don't know about the general community. So I'm pretty sick to see Kratos play. What team do we want to talk about next? We talked a little bit about GT, but Bridget, obviously, I think you had them winning the whole thing. Thoughts on them this weekend after taking a look at them at least a couple of games?
I definitely had like kind of GT and Alter Ego as my like top two, so I really wanted to watch that round one game. Obviously did not, but I was like, okay, like, you know, I think Alter Ego was cracked out of their mind, so not like super surprising. They were like kind of getting through. Then GT was like kind of getting through the losers bracket. Obviously, we were able to watch a little bit of like the GT versus Nemesis in the losers bracket.
Oh, sick.
Where GT was looking really good. Nemesis is not like they're an incredible team too. Like I feel like they definitely could have even gotten a game or won the set off of GT for sure. So that was like kind of got me more hype. And then GT won game one of LG versus GT. And then I just feel like in general, I think drafts could get more creative. I just feel like almost in best of threes it's hard. It's not really until we get to like best of fives or like these grand finals where I feel like I see players starting to be like, okay, back against the wall, let's just do something crazy, you know?
Mhm.
And so I wish teams in general were a little more like in like those game 3 situations where you're about to be knocked out, just kind of, I don't know, try to counter pick or try to get more creative in draft in general, but
Yeah.
I still think they did like exceptionally well, and I think they're gonna like like they'll stay together, they'll like improve. I'm excited to see like their run in future tourneys.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I mean they're still top 4, right? They're still a top 4 team in the
Yeah.
region. They're sitting at that point. They're an extremely strong team, and like they're still hunting for that tournament win, right? They obviously got that second place as the highest moment, but oh my gosh, I love that pinned message.
the immediate pin.
Yeah, JL showing up in chat to award their MVP. So thank you for participating in the podcast, JL. Kratos' MVP deciding factor for me was him staying composed the entire game. His gameplay is butts, so we don't get the E mark on Spotify. But yeah, it's that's hilarious. Okay, all right, yeah, I think we talked about most of the top teams. YTE did lose their first game to LG. They went out pretty quick. Fixed is a really fun team. They look like they could be solid for the rest of the season, but obviously going up against Nemesis, getting 2-0'd. Nemesis is a team that I had ranked extremely high, headed especially into open qualifiers. But then getting knocked down so early really made me have a lot of doubts on this team, and I think maybe those were proven by getting 2-0'd by GT. I don't know. I think Nemesis just need to need to improve. But I think they still are a very, very good team. But if they want to break into the top 4, I know they're a team that likes to experiment. Like Rex likes to try some pretty creative supports, like Sableye or even Mr. Mime, right? Like we definitely try some pretty crazy stuff, but maybe not always successful. But yes, that guy. I mean, the next team to talk about is TTV. They went 0-2 in this bracket, and then we saw some posts. We go to the Twitter. TTV. Well, it all started with Lutano basically posting that they're LFT. Saying that they left TTV. They're looking for a Worlds invite. And then I think the next day, Ender posted a longer tweet that basically just said, we're hanging it up. The TTV roster is like officially retiring, or at least the team name. I'm sure the players will end up in places. Lutano showed that they still want to be able to compete. I'm not sure what's the deal with Otter or Pikadiff for the rest of the crew or Hitman. Ender goes into like a lot of detail, talks about this tournament's performance, and then of course their history as well. I won't go into all of it because it's a really, really long post, but if you want to read it, I'm sure if you listen to this podcast, you already follow Ender on Twitter, so you can go see that post. But yeah, I mean, this is a huge moment in the scene. Like, TTV has been around since the beginning. Deucenex, you made a post about it. Like, we owe a lot of Unite mics, like, just success in general, or like at least our early days, to the members of TTV being willing to share VODs with us, allow us to cast over their ranked games, like just use their stream like VODs as moments that we could cast over, just to practice, to produce content. Like, they're like one of the main reasons, and even past that, like it kind of like welcoming us into the competitive player scene, which at the time was like really cagey and small, right? And they didn't want, like, we were just two randoms who weren't that good at the game at the time, and we just like talking about it, and we were allowed in. So it is wild to see, like, at the end of these 3 years that we are seeing the farewell to TTV. So just, yeah, any thoughts on TTV and their roster retiring, or anything you guys want to talk about surrounding this team?
I feel like I feel like I've been a TTV like fan. Like, they really felt like the people's team for at least like the first couple years of UCS. I mean, going to NAIC and like seeing their run like live in person to win that,
they
like,
were the main
regionals
pro
last
tags
year.
of NAIC, right? Like,
Yes,
the crowd
like,
chose them as the main protagonists.
yeah, because it's like underdogs, you know, they're playing against like the LG behemoths, who are obviously like went on to win worlds back to back, you know, like and it's like crazy to call them underdogs, but in that situation, that was definitely the case. And like watching them like crack LG's draft in like real time, like it was just like it was so sick. Like come, it was so sick. And like even like Ender especially has always like meant a lot to me as like a support player, because he was like the support, like he made it cool to like play support.
Legitimately,
like, to me.
yeah.
Like I just, you know, Lutano, I mean even like Zug, like their core like group, just, you know, it felt like no one was doing it like them for a while, and it is just kind of like they've just always been a rock in the community as like a unit, so not having that is definitely gonna be weird moving forward.
It will be. Dupes, next, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, Echo. Speaking of which, big shout out to Zug coming through
Hey.
a raid.
Thank you, Zagrog.
Zug talking about
Zagrog.
you and the two TTV squad. So I'll echo all of Bridget's sentiments right there. But to me, ironically enough, before I could say it, Zug rugs everybody. Zug rug raids everybody, not Zug rugs everybody. It's hard to not say that the building was going to fall when one of the 3 pillars got knocked out. Air quotes, you know, made a move, right?
Right.
And if to me it was, if one of the 3 decides it's time to move on, the collective is going to move on. That's just kind of how I felt at the time when Zug joined LG. And although I'm sad, I am not surprised that the TTV, after, I think that the team was on life support and really needed a result to give them the validation to say, okay, this can work, let's move on. And they're all too competitive to have just literally passed up on this event, right? And broken up the team before Aeos Cup qualifiers, in my opinion. Or, you know, this is just me, not based on conversation. This is just me talking here. So it is incredibly sad to see TTV go. I think they were the cornerstone, or certainly the bedrock of the competitive scene for this game since day one, since release, right? They kind of had the vision before anyone else did. Gaming is 5, being a team, marketing themselves that way, streaming all the time, being that group that was willing to push the limits a little bit in terms of what a competitive team could be theoretically in there, and all that stuff. So big shout out to TTV. I hope they all land on their feet in the places that make them happy, that they achieve the goals that they want for themselves, of course. And it's, I mean, it's a sad day. It really is. Like you mentioned, Zoinks, they helped us through letting us use all their videos for free to cast over, to generate content off of, so you and I could cut our teeth in casting for this game, because similar to TTV in a different vein, we also had a vision of what the competitive scene could be and understood kind of where we could slot into that equation in the long run. And I think in a lot of facets, we all happen to be right, which is terrific, right? We got to grow together in that sense. So big shout out to TTV. Like I said, I hope all the best for all 3 of those individuals that we now collectively kind of see as the Triforce of what TTV was: Zagrug, Lutano, and Ender. So big shout out to them, and all love, of course. And if any of them need anything, they can always reach out to us.
Oh my gosh, yeah, 1,000 times over. Completely agree. And just know, these players have all professed a lot of interest in wanting to stay in the scene in some way, shape, or form. Lutano obviously has expressed a ton of interest in looking for a new team. Zugrug is playing with Luminosity Gaming this year and is already off to a roaring success. Ender, in this post, actually talked about how they want to just really lean heavy into content creation, focused with a competitive angle, or at least that's kind of how I read into it, but at least with Ender University and VOD reviews, I must say I'm very much looking forward to like the Wolfie style of video of a full history of TTV video. I am very, very excited for that one. That's going to be very interesting. So yeah, the team disbanding is definitely a heartbreak. It's going to be a change to the scene, but I am excited to see where these players go. Of course, Pikatif has kind of just felt cursed in this way. Like every team, they're just kind of moving to team, but you can't argue with the amount of success they've had on all the teams that they have been on. So I think that if they still want to keep competing, they will have that chance as well. And then, yeah, I mean, it's a bummer for Hitman. Obviously, only got to play one tournament with under that banner, but still, I think we'll see more from them. Otter too, obviously just an unbelievably talented player. So I'm sure we'll see more of them. And oh my gosh, thank you so much for the raid, Unite Battle Hub. We're talking about TTV right now, but I hope the NA tournament went well. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up the discussion that we wanted to have on TTV. Well, actually, I will just say this. If you're listening to our podcast, I joked about it earlier, but if you are newer to the podcast or newer to the scene, I know I've had people like talk to me a lot recently about how they just started watching after Worlds last year. Like they tuned into the broadcast, they started following the scene. It is hard to it is hard to fully grasp how good TTV was and like successfully, I mean, like in competitive seasons, like they had a above 90% tournament win rate. And I don't mean per matches. That was there too. But I mean getting first place in tournaments was over 90%. It was unbelievable. No one has been more dominant than them in any stage of competitive Pokemon Unite. Even Luminosity Gaming walking away with 2 world championships, like just the amount of tournaments that TTV was playing in and winning, it was unheard of. Obviously the scene has grown and become different and everything, but there was just a stage of time where TTV was just everywhere. But kind of crazy to think about. Kind of crazy. But let's move on past TTV. Obviously, we can all support those players wherever they go. I know they'll probably continue streaming, making great content, so make sure to go check all that out. But I think the last thing I wanted to talk about on today's podcast was a bit of a metagame conversation. Which it's so funny. For a competitive Pokemon Unite podcast, we do talk about the video game a shockingly low amount. So we should talk about the game for a little bit. Obviously, we have some exciting stuff coming up with Pokemon Day and everything, but that's not for a couple of weeks. So right now, let's just talk about the state of the tournament metagame right now. And I'm curious on just my first question, is it healthy right now? Is the tournament meta a healthy meta? Do we enjoy it? Do we hate it? What are we feeling? How about you, Bridget?
Hard to say. I think overall, yes, it does seem pretty healthy.
Okay.
With some outliers, I would say, being maybe a little dominant.
Mm-hmm.
How broken is Crustle?
It's sick. I'm having so much fun with that Pokemon in ranked right now. Unapologetically playing a ton of Crustle. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think Crustle, I feel like people are like tapping into. Okay, what I really think is like turbo broken is Buzzwole. I think, like you mentioned earlier, or maybe you've talked about it, there's just a wide gap between Buzzwole top lane and everything else top lane. Yeah, how did we just let this bug be so broken? I don't understand.
So
it is insane.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, it is beatable though. Same with Inteleon, feels very beatable. Although like can be dominant. Leafeon, I think the snowball potential is pretty scary, but nothing is kind of like nothing was like banned every game. You know what I mean? Like I think everything made it in at one point or another.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There is like at least variety in that way. That's a good point.
Yeah, in some ways.
One of the interesting things I thought about this metagame right now is I actually think it's kind of due to the rise of Crustle, ironically. It's just that tanks were going even tankier, right? Like we're basically Umbreon and Crustle are kind of the 2 tanks we're seeing every single game. And it's sort of pushed Inteleon even out a little bit. Inteleon still in the right hands is devastating, and it's so good. Roland, I'm looking at you. Like that guy is unbelievable, that Pokemon. But we're seeing things like more shred base, like Gardevoir, or namely Glaceon is the #1 offender of this. Even Espeon and Sylveon really showcasing their value in this way, just full tank shred options are skyrocketing in popularity, I think due to just the huge tankiness, which is surprising because, I mean, we had this before when Lapras was in the metagame, but now we're seeing it in like a completely different angle. So that's been kind of interesting to sort of see the slight fall of Inteleon. I'm not saying Inteleon's bad. I'm just saying it has fallen down in popularity a little bit in favor of Pokemon like Espeon, Sylveon, and Glaceon. and Leafeon is obviously broken, and Umbreon's one of the best 2 supports. So I think it's time we talk about evolutions and their game state, because it's kind of nuts right now. But Deuce Snacks, how about you? How are you feeling about the metagame?
Yeah, I think overall it's in a solid spot just in general. Like Bridget said, not everything was banned out every single game. Buzzwole is a problem. Every single evolution is a problem. They need to like fix those en masse. Like the fact that they have like the best passives. They power spike at 4. They get their Unite move at 8, and the moves that they get are so like oppressive, like blows, like like mean look, icicle spear, solar blade,
hyper voice, like
hyper voice.
Yeah, even like Psyshock or Sword Power. Yeah.
It's like all of these moves are like you can't even contend with them with other Pokemon that spike at 4. And you could literally see LG's draft, right? Like they would ban Buzzwole, take Glaceon, and everything on their team spiked at 4 or didn't need to evolve. Right, so it was like Lucario at 5, and then 3 Eevees and Blissey.
Yeah.
Lucario at 5, 3 Eevees and Clefable. Like it's the same recipe with just a little bit different texture. And like if you're to a point where all 5 Eevees are making it in to like 4 consecutive games, that's a problem.
Yes.
That just means that they, as a collective, stand head and shoulders above everything else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bummer because there's a lot of cool stage 2 Pokemon in the game.
Yeah. This might be a hot take, but I don't actually think the evolution problem is the early. Well, okay, their early game being strong right now is devastating, but I don't hate the fact that that's their gimmick, is that they're strong early. Obviously, I'd like to see their late game scaling toned down as well, but I think the problem with the evolutions is that it's not even really a matter of beginning and end. Like, they're just a better version of most other Pokemon, right? Like, why would I play something like Chandelure or Gardevoir, which do extremely similar things to Sylveon, and I have a better Unite move to win 1v1 fights with? Which is like what our metagame is kind of coming down to, right? With how much special attack damage is, it's really hard to play grouped up, kind of tanky, like death ball compositions. You're just gonna get shredded. Like even Venusaur seeing a fall off in terms of success, because you just are gonna get eliminated. You have constantly having a Buzzwole or a Lucario or Machamp sometimes, or a Dodrio like on a crazy flank around you, having an evolution passive. It's just nuts. So I don't know. I personally think that they're just a better version of so many other options, and that's a huge problem. It's like devastating to see Zoroark like fall off the face of the earth when it on paper should be an incredibly good counter to the Eevees. Like it should be, you should walk all over the Eevees with that Pokemon. And maybe in solo queue you can, but it's like, well, we can't really dedicate the resource to a Comfey, which we might need, because what if Fate's attack is like the first instance of damage and it breaks Snowcloak and then our Zoroark's doomed? Yeah, well, who knows, right? Like it's, oh my goodness, I don't know. I feel like the problem is just more dynamic. Like all this to say, I don't think moving the evolution to 5 and the Unite to 9 would fix it. That's what I'm gonna say. I do think that they're even stronger than just that, in my opinion. And Glaceon Unite, like our Icicle Star just sucks. Percent of maximum HP damage on a sure hit move sucks. Like, please, can we please eliminate that mechanic? Like, that is so dumb. Because now if we're hitting into a tank, it's crazy strong. Also, I actually don't know about the mechanics. Does it factor in the percent of the HP of the person that it's targeting, or the person that's receiving the damage?
Never thought about it, but I'm not sure.
Because, like, what if you target, like, a Regirock and I jump in front of it? Am I taking, like, a bajillion more damage? Man,
There's no way that's.
I hate this Pokemon. Even if that's not true, I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway.
like the fact that like it collats to other players when it gets its plus mode is insane too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that
Yeah.
is crazy. That is banana lands. That it just turns into like a pseudo AOE. Is yeah, it's just banana lands.
Yeah.
I think it is, but whoever's getting hit, it's like their HP, not whoever they locked on to. But
Okay, that makes sense. I know it was bugged for a time.
Mm.
At I think it was at Worlds or not Worlds. It was at EUIC last year. Like Glaceon
Oh.
had a specific Icicle Shard bug, but they were like, it's too
I
late.
could
Just
rip
go ahead and play it."
objectives instantly.
Yeah,
yeah, that was so funny.
I think it was like doing like percent of missing HP or something. Was like it was one of those was flip flop,
Oh,
and so it was like it was just hitting objectives way harder than it normally should have. But yeah, it was. That was really strange. But anyway, yeah, crazy times. Okay, so top lane, dominated by Buzzwole. I think we've kind of outlined our pretty clear nerf list so far. The EVs could all take a large pass over all of them. In my opinion, it's their passive. Let's double the cooldown on all their passives, please. Thank you very much. And also, let's not give away free solar plates. Anyway, that's gonna be my.
That is also banana lands.
The passive,
I
it's just so
approve.
strong. Get out of here, Bridget. No. Buzzwole needs to be toned down. Other than that, I actually think if you tone down Buzzwole, Blastoise too. Blastoise needs to get toned down a little bit. But other than that, I feel like game's okay. I know Crustal's strong, but I like. I've said this before, but other Pokemon, like Dragapult specifically, when it got its buff, give it its time. You know, we've had to deal with broken Umbreon and Slowbro since like, well, a Slowbro since like UCS got invented. Okay, can we please let Crustle just have a couple of months? Come on. Anyway, yeah, that's my opinion. How do you nerf Blastoise? I think you probably give it a bit less shield on its Surf moves. And on its Unite move, make you just lower the shield number. It's probably a lot better.
its Unite feels so insane.
I don't mind its Unite being the best Unite move in the game. Like, that's the thing. I do think it is the best Unite move in the game. It's just, I think it's too strong at too many things. It's already incredible at crowd control. It's probably the best crowd control Unite move we have. It's better than Gardevoir. It's easier to reposition. It hits more targets. It's like, it's a less of a stun. Like, it's technically Gardevoir's longer. But, like, but it also just, like, amps Blastoise to the moon in terms of defenses and shields and all of it. Like, it's, I don't know. I just feel like we need to make it really good at one thing. Let's not, why are we making it so good at so much all in one?
Mhm.
That's my opinion of it. But, yeah. How about you? What about you two? What are on your like number one? We gotta buff this fast list.
Buff?
Oh, sorry, I meant nerf. I totally meant nerf.
Okay.
My bad.
I was like,
We could do. Let's end with some positivity on some buff after this. But yeah, go ahead first. Nerf. Yeah.
You have one, do snacks. Go ahead. I'm kind of looking right now. I do think. Okay, I lied. I actually have one. I do. Okay, I know Clefable isn't seeing a ton of use, or it's like kind of like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Its healing is pretty insane, though.
It could be
like,
toned down. It absolutely
if we're being honest,
Mhm.
it is kind of nasty.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I know healing supports are very much the meta, and it'd be hard to see that change, but it would be cool if some of the more like disruption supports were more prominent. So
Viable. Yeah.
yeah.
I agree. All right, Dupes, next. How about you? Anything kind of near the top of your nerf list?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say Clefable. I
Okay,
think that
yeah.
that makes a little bit of sense. I think there's a very small like tick down, perhaps on damage or cooldown that you could maybe do to like Inteleon Snipe Shot, or maybe you don't touch Snipe
Interesting.
Shot, but you just gently turn up Liquidation. Not too much because it is a sure hit, but at least make it so both kits feel reasonable as opposed to one being good and one being dog water.
Mhm.
I think those are just two like quick adjustments you can make. And then of course, as another support player on this podcast, I will say that the disruptive supports could use a little bit of love. I know Wigglytuff just got a pretty reasonable buff to Sing, and we're still barely seeing it played. We are seeing it
Mhm.
played, which is good,
We did see it.
but not much. I think you could do some cool stuff, with Mime, because Mime can act similarly to Crustle in how it operates, right? Like it's a tank, but it's not a get in your grill tank. It's a wall tough, or it's a wall uh, uh, kind of defensive type thing, right? It's a
Mhm.
spacing tank, if you
Yeah.
will. It's
Mhm.
kind of what I've been calling them.
It's a more team-focused Crustle, in my opinion.
Correct.
Like, more
Yeah.
team-reliant base, right? Like, because you have your secondary move, which can either be focused on damage or it can be supportive. So, I
Yeah,
think.
maybe a boost to like the leash, right? To give it an option to at least get some HP. And maybe you're like, okay, I don't have to choose Comfey to, have an engagement with some of these types of
Mhm.
Pokemon, right? I can have a really good adept Mr. Mind player can kind of hang with you, right? As you're communicating
Sure.
well. And at least you get to benefit or off that. And then of course, Sableye to the moon.
Yeah. Sableye buff would be sweet. Bridget, quick buff.
For Sableye, yes.
Oh,
Or another
sure.
one.
Any Pokemon. What's on your number one? Like, please buff this
First off, I
Pokemon.
appreciate you for saying Sableye buff. Yes.
Yeah, sure,
I
sure.
love. I played it the other
Validated.
day.
Validated.
It's fine, honestly. I feel like a demon when I play that thing. It's so fun.
Oh, do not agree. I detest playing Sableye.
Really?
I do.
That's crazy. It's
do.
so fun. You just get to be a menace.
To be fair, I'm not really a big fan of supports. Like, I like playing Hoopa, but other than that,
Wow.
I'm not a huge fan of playing supports. So, Wiggly, I'll
Honestly,
play too. But...
At this point, I really don't know what else I'd buff. Like, I mean, there's probably things that need it,
Mhm, mhm.
but nothing I really like want to see do well.
Oh my
Blue
gosh.
Orchid could use a buff, probably.
I got
Do
a
I
buff.
want
I got a
it?
buff.
No.
No.
I got a buff. A Mamoswine Unite buff.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah. We could use some Mamo love. That is kind of crazy.
Mamo is such a cool character.
Yeah. Shout out to Mame, the Japanese goat, who is still playing that Pokemon in tournaments and is currently the #1 ranked team in Japan. So
Yes,
I don't
sir.
know. They're doing something different out there. But if I want to see buffs, I think my top 3 list is Scyther Scizor, I think could do with some
Oh, yeah.
buffs.
Spraggles would hate that, but yeah.
I think he'd like to see them good. I think he normally just hates how bad they are. But yes, he would maybe actually hate it. You're right. So this is Aegislash is another one I'd really like to get some positive changes to. Even if it's like, I don't know, let's mess around with the fun moveset. Let's buff Ironhead. Let's just shake and bake a little bit.
Let's do
and
it.
then and then Goodra. I think Goodra could be a Pokemon that could be buffed. It's already like very viable in solo queue and everything. I just think it needs like a little bit to make it competitively. Honestly, this is it would be a fun one. Just buff the range of Power Whip. Let's just make it a little bit longer. Let's just get goofy with it and let's just make
get a
Power
little
Whip a little bit
silly.
longer. Let's just throw things around, I would think that would be awesome. But anyway, I think I think we could maybe see those changes. Honestly, we talked about it when we started having this discussion. We said we think the metagame's in an okay spot, but there are some Pokemon that could see some changes. I think personally, I'm at the point where the metagame has been in an okay spot. I am starting to get sick of it now. At this competitive juncture. Honestly,
more bans.
Yeah.
And nerf the EVs. More bans and nerf the EVs, and I'm like all in.
Like,
and then I'm all in.
It's not an if this then that. It's
Sure.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
We're at a character like without speaking of the current metagame or our character pool is large enough to be able to call for 2 bans. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been calling for 2 bans for a year and a half. So like
that's true.
Clearly, I'm on that ship.
That's true. Did you guys catch any of the ACL Showdown format games? By the way.
I didn't.
They're kind of fun. They're nonsense. There was a Trick Room Mimikyu, so it was crazy. But Be all interested. But we are going to be heading out here. But I did want to mention before this, I don't think we all know like enough about the ACL teams to really do a full-on predictions episode and stuff like that. But I did want to say this weekend is the Asia Champions League finals held live and in person in Bangkok. So there will be a stream of it. I believe there is a Japanese stream and an English stream, always done both on Twitch. So you can go catch all of the ACL Grand Finals. There's 8 teams, of course. They look awesome. If you want to see the best that Asia has to offer, that's going to be the best place to go. And it'll be a really, really exciting tournament. It was so fun to watch last year. So this weekend, I think we might be streaming some of it here on Unite Mics. So I might stream some of it on my channel. I don't know. It kind of depends on times and what we got planned, but definitely look out for content coverage around ACL. At the very least, VOD reviews coming out from us very, very soon. But other than that, let's close up shop here. Bridget, anything to sell out, shout out, or plug before we end the episode?
Actually, I'm participating in like a charity tournament on Saturday.
Sweet.
I literally just thought about it, so I do not have any information. It's by Team XO. There's a bunch of content creators and people playing in it. There are people on Twitch streaming it. I'll post about it on my Twitter. But it's this Saturday. It's for Trans Justice Funding Project. It'll be really hype and a lot of fun, and a lot of cool people are playing in it. So
that's awesome.
This Saturday, yeah, it'll be really fun.
Okay, sweet. Tune in. How about you, Doofstex?
Yeah.
Follow Bridget at Big Bridget on Twitter.
That's true.
Wow,
Yeah.
I don't even have to say my Twitter.
No, it's good. Doofstex is just so pumped about the name change. That's all it is.
That's all.
Awesome.
Who it was mainly for.
It's a big quality of life upgrade for me.
It's good.
That's what it's all about.
Awesome. Okay, well, the only plug I'm going to give is actually to, first off, obviously, follow the channel on YouTube, on Twitch, and of course, any podcast platform. Make sure to rate it 5 stars if you can. But if you are looking for more Pokemon Unite podcasts, there's only a few out there, but there are some pretty cool ones. Obviously, you have Spraggles, You're on Fire podcast, you want to check out more content. But also just a shout out to a really cool, smaller Pokemon Unite podcast. They only have 4 episodes out right now, but they're really cool. It's called The Final Stretch. It's run by Berry Burst and PokeSir. So if you're interested in checking out another Pokemon Unite podcast, they cover a little bit of competitive, a little bit of casual. They kind of do it all. So check out The Final Stretch. Very, very fun podcast. Like I said, I think they're only on episode 4. So you're getting in right on the ground floor. Make sure and go check that episode out. But until then, next week we will be back. We'll be covering ACL and everything that went down there and talking about the top teams from Asia. I can't wait. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.